I'll take you back live to the Nasrec Expo Center south of Johannesburg. That's where now our reporter Eldrin Sampir is joined by Zikalala, the ANC chairperson in KwaZulu-Natal.
Well, good evening. As the sun sets here in the south of Johannesburg, and the commissions are still continuing as they discuss various documents here at this policy conference of the ANC. Of course, today being the second day, and right now, as you indicated, I'm joined by Zikalala, who is the chairperson of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, and of course it is the biggest province of the ANC. And you were saying earlier on, Mr. Zikalala, that KZN will remain the biggest province of the ANC.
Yes, I think the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal will still continue to grow. We cannot say we've reached the maximum level, also compared to our population. So there's a space to grow. The strength of the ANC is quite important because it does not find expression only in conferences. But for the ANC to grow its electoral support, it needs to have a strong organizational structures, particularly on the ground. It also needs to have the membership that is active and participating in programs. Once you've got a strong machinery in a form of organizational structures, it becomes easy even to continuously increase the electoral support.
But I guess some of the concern has been with the KZN, for instance, is what some would call the political killings. How are you dealing with that issue? And also the issue around the infighting in the party as well, where after the last conference you had, not this current one, the previous one, where there were challenges, where there were protesting, ANC members protesting outside the offices?
Well, the first thing is that the issue of political killings, I think it's a serious challenge. It is always a blow to see members of the ANC being killed. Recently, in fact, just 2 or 3 days ago, one comrade was killed in Richmond. And you will see that it's beginning to be a trend happening in Richmond and Zikalala. We've taken a view that, one, there must be a commission of inquiry to investigate all of these killings. But two, we are happy that the Minister of Police, the new Minister of Police, Fikile Mbalula, have taken this matter up and is trying to enforce policing and proper investigations of all of these cases. We are also, when it comes to the issue of unity, as you are emphasizing, yes, from the provincial conference, we cannot hide the fact that we were divided. It was a conference that was highly contested, but since then, slowly we've been working on trying to unite the comrades. Uniting means that we must firstly acknowledge and appreciate that there are elements of divisions. Secondly, it means we must work to reach out to those comrades who would have not seen in the manner in which we see things, and then close ranks and ensure that we emerge again as a united province. I cannot say we are there as yet, but it is a work that we are doing. We are hopeful that eventually the province will be united again.
Would you say that the 508 delegates that you are leading here are divided?
No, I wouldn't say so. You would have noticed the media and the commentators have always been projecting KwaZulu-Natal as divided. They started by saying, no, it's divided between yourself, Sihle, and Comrade Senzo, Nkunu, the former chair. They then said, now what 3 camps? There are those who belong to Zweli, Mkize, those who support myself, and those who support Comrade Senzo. If you notice the PGC, the 3 days PGC we held last weekend was an expression of maximum unity. If you have noticed the behavior of KwaZulu-Natal delegates since the beginning of this conference, you see that the organization is getting more united. Maybe there will be few comrades who will have their own preference when it comes to leadership issues, but we can say with certainty that once we analyze, debate, we'll come to the conclusion on the issue of leadership and agree on particular leaders that we will propose. As we talk now on key policy proposition, the province is fully united.
Just quickly, before we get into those policy proposals, as it stands at the moment, you don't anticipate that there could be another court challenge against the constitution or the
issues of the court challenges that were taken up by those corporates are still there. We responded to them. We will not want to entertain that issue. We will leave it at that level. It's an issue for us that we can say is sub judice.
Would you say that you will remain in power as chairperson of the province up until the elective conference of the ANC, the National Elective Conference?
Up until the provincial conference of the ANC, the current leadership is in place.
Okay, and let's speak about the PGC, some of the policies that, policy proposals that you are bringing forward. You are saying that let's change the constitution, section 25 of the constitution. If you can't change it, then we go through to a referendum. Let's just expand a bit on that.
Well, we are firm on the issue of land expropriation with no compensation. We're not saying that because we're adventurous or we're falling into trap of just pleasing voters. But it is the fact that in South Africa we've had a problem when it comes to issue of land restitution. And therefore we're saying the ANC should use its power in parliament, engage with other African-dominated parties, agree with them, then go to review the constitution and change the constitution to allow the expropriation of land without compensation.
Was it at all a missed opportunity then for the ANC during the Thabo Mbeki era? Because at that time you had something close to 70% in terms of electoral support in post the elections.
Look, during that Thabo Mbeki era, I think we missed the opportunity to focus on radical economic transformation. Firstly, we should have addressed the issue of land. Secondly, we should have addressed the structure and the patterns of the economy. Instead of having the economy that where South Africans just consume whatever is important from other countries, we should from that time work around building the capacity in the country and industrialize in the country. Instead of importing everything to South Africa, we must export. So those are key propositions that are coming from KwaZulu-Natal to this policy conference.
What would the KwaZulu-Natal's delegates' arguments then be when somebody like Jackson Mthembu or Naledi Pandor stand up and say that, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with section 25 of the constitution, but what is wrong is the failure of the ANC cadres and those who are leading to implement the policy decisions?
I think we will request them to familiarize themselves with issues of land restitution. I think the first, there's the number of research that have been conducted on issues of land. But secondly, there are cases where municipalities have expropriated land without compensation. eThekwini Metro is one of those municipalities. They expropriated land without compensation. The owner took the municipality to court. And the court said, yes, you can expropriate without paying, but you must have terms, clear terms on when you are going to pay. So that argument is invalid and misleading. And we're not going to allow that because what we're talking about, we're not talking about creating a debt. Yep. We're not talking about a loan. We are saying the people who own land, especially the commercial land, the farmers who own land currently, in fact, they took that land forcefully from Africans. And therefore, there is no need to argue for payment in this regard.
How do you then ascertain whether this particular family, the land that they have at the moment, is land that they acquired unlawfully, and therefore that land must be...
The Land Claim Commission is dealing with that, and I think it is a process that can still be pursued in line with the work of the Land Claim Commissions.
So you'd say that the argument then is flawed from cadres like Jackson?
No, it doesn't hold water and it's not convincing. In fact, it is totally misleading.
And what would your argument then be when the issue around what the courts are saying, for instance, that Section 25 says that there must be compensation for land. However, until you've proven that the land has been stolen, otherwise you must then compensate.
We will then be able to prove that because we've done our research on the land that were on people of our country who were dispossessed of their land. We can tell you who was located where in KwaZulu-Natal, and therefore we will be able to prove that. And we're not saying we must undermine the law and act willy-nilly.
Do you at all foresee that what could happen is that we could end up like in a situation like Zimbabwe, where, as with Zimbabwe at least, they said that we are not saying that all farmers must leave. We are saying that farmers who have more than one parcel of land must retain the one land, but whatever else is on the side will then be expropriated without compensation.
The first thing is that we are not reaching this position because of our own. We have been forced. In 1996, we introduced the Land Claim Commission and the land claim process, and it was frustrated by the farmers, in particular the commercial farmers, who charge government exorbitant fees for land. And therefore, what was framed as willing buyer, willing seller, didn't work. We now have a current, the status quo is the Valuer General. Even that Valuer General is not going to, at the end, say, let's have land without paying. And the issue is that there are few farmers who are willing to cooperate. And in that regard, we say, let us take that on board. In KwaZulu-Natal, in Mutini, we've got an area where the farmer has said, no, we're going to give the claimants 50% and we're going to hold 50%. And we support that. But we have faced resistance. In South Africa, you've got a problem that those who were oppressed have accepted reconciliation. But the oppressors are arrogant and not prepared to cooperate and ensure transformation of this country.
Let's quickly speak about unity within the party as a whole. And I remember about 2 years ago at the National General Council when you and I were speaking about the ANC's elective conference and heading into the ANC's elective conference. One of the suggestions that you made, which you said would be quite crucial for the ANC's unity, is that when the party heads to its elective conference, it must ensure that it at least has one leader, uncontested, to become the leader of the party. Do you still hold that view?
It would have been helpful for the ANC if the president, for instance, was not going to be contested. But I want to live in the existing environment. I'm not an idealist. I believe in practical things. I don't believe that we must suppress democracy. If it is still possible to agree on one name, it will help the ANC. But if we don't agree on a name, it will be better for us to discuss an approach that will be accommodative and try to stop slate politics. How to do that? If there are two candidates for the presidency, we may need to consider whether one who will be elected becomes the president and the one who's not elected then serve as a deputy president, then we continue. That will help us to unite instead of having slates and one team coming with the top 6 or top 5. And that I don't believe will help the ANC to unite post-December.
But that probably creates more confusion if you have two candidates for presidential position, but you also have candidates for the deputy president.
It doesn't create confusion. In KwaZulu-Natal, it once happened where Comrade Zweli Mkhize and Comrade Sbu contested for the chair, and Sbu was elected. Zweli contested again for the deputy chair. He was then elected as the deputy chair. And in this regard, I'm not saying we must take that route, but I'm saying those who are involved, structures of the organization, it will help the ANC if structures would sit down and say, for presidency, we've got these two candidates. Anyone who's not successful for the president position should become the deputy president. That will help the ANC to unite post the national conference.
A suggestion from the Northwest chairperson, Supra Mahumapilo, was that the ANC's elective conference as well, to help again with the issue around unity and to make sure that there is not a lot of confusion and divisions in the party, is to align the elections of the elective conference rather of the party to that of the elections, the general elections of the country. Are you keen to that idea?
I think the idea needs to be examined. I'm not opposed to it, but there are factors that will need to be examined. For instance, if you elect the leadership of the ANC and you say you elect the leadership of the ANC in December, and April you will have elections. For the ANC, we will be focusing on the conference instead of campaigning for elections. So far, the status quo have helped the ANC to go through the national conference, try to heal, then get into the election campaign, and then go to the elections. And then I think the current situation has been helpful for the ANC, but the idea from Comrade Supra do need to be considered.
Well, I guess the suggestion that he's making is because they're trying to avoid as well what some argue to be the two centers of power, where you have the president of the ANC and then you have the president of the country. What do you do in that case?
Well, it is a situation that I'm saying it needs to be discussed. In a normal environment, it does not become a problem. You will remember that when Madiba was president, in Mafikeng it was clear that he was no longer going to stand. And when President Mbeki was elected, President Mandela continued until 1999. But he began to assign more responsibilities to Thabo Mbeki, who was obviously going to take over. So it was a smooth transition. And we need to discuss whether such an approach is still possible or not.
Just in closing, yesterday the Speaker of Parliament announced that on the 8th of August, the 3rd of August rather, there will be the debate on the motion of no confidence against the President. What's your instructions to MPs who are on the party's list, who find themselves in the caucus of the ANC in Parliament?
We are not dealing with instructions, we've got principles. And principles are simple for the ANC. If you are in Parliament, you represent the ANC, you will go and vote in line with the decision of the ANC. You cannot go to represent the ANC and begin to represent yourself. And on that, we're firm and clear. It is not an instruction, it is a principle that has always been there. It is not being introduced for this matter, but it has always been there. It is existing in all political parties. For us, it is not in the constitution of the ANC, but for other parties, their constitutions have even a clause that say, if you vote against the party decision, you would have expelled yourself. So we'll go there. Members of the ANC, members of Parliament on the side of the ANC, they will go there and vote in line with the decision of the ANC.
If they
We're
fail,
not going to be told by the opposition.
If they refuse, if they fail to do that, will
well,
there
it
be
will be for the
repercussions?
first time if we to experience such a decision. But obviously, if you are unable to carry the mandate of the ANC, just withdraw. Withdraw from representing the ANC, and the ANC must get other people who will go there and represent it.
So resign as an MP?
Yes, resign as an MP. There are many members of the ANC. The membership of the ANC is above. It's close to 1 million. And therefore, all of those members have a capacity to represent the ANC.
And if that person doesn't resign, you'll remove them?
Well, the process that will be dealt with in line with processes of the organization. I don't want to speak before that happens. We'll cross that bridge when we reach there, but I don't believe we'll ever reach that point. Members of the ANC are disciplined and they've got political commitment to the movement.
Well, thank you so much, Zikalala, the chairperson of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, speaking about the current affairs issues and especially that motion of no confidence coming up against President Jacob Zuma in Parliament, where Parliament will be debating that motion of no confidence. Still unsure at this moment whether the vote that will be taking place will be opened or secret, but we know what the Constitutional Court judgment has said with regards to that matter. Some of the issues that the Speaker of Parliament must take into consideration meant to make that final decision whether it is open or closed. It's back to you in studio.